In John Wick Chapter 4, the main character finally has some hope, and the grim ending that the series has been building up to seems to be undone. John Wick was not only a big comeback for Keanu Reeves, but it also had a big impact on many action movies that came after it. In the sequels to John Wick, there was more action and more people died, but it felt like Wick's chances of staying alive got worse with each chapter. At the end of John Wick Chapter 3, he was barely alive. He had survived tough shootouts and fights, but then his old friend, Winston, turned on him. Ian McShane. Ballerina's timeline risks creating a John Wick Chapter 4 problem. The timeline set by Ballerina makes the story of John Wick Chapter 4 more complicated. Some of the characters from the John Wick movies will definitely be in Ballerina, which will focus on a different main character from the series. Between the third and fourth movies, Rooney, played by Ana de Armas, will go on a mission to get revenge. John Wick, at the end of Chapter 3, Parabellum, John was in a dangerous situation. John is now in a place where he has to deal with the High Table because of his most recent battle. From what the trailer for John Wick Chapter 4 shows, his main goal will be to make them happy instead of fighting them. In the new movie, they will talk about this battle, but it looks like they will also look back at this time in his life, no matter how short it was. It looks like Keanu Reeves will play John again in Ballerina, a movie that takes place before John Wick Chapter 4. But for now, we don't know much about what he'll be up to. Ballerina being set before John Wick Chapter 4 could hurt its story. The decision to put Ballerina before the next movie in the main series could end up hurting the story of John Wick 4. Ballerina doesn't have a confirmed release date yet, but it will be in theaters before John Wick Chapter 4. Because of this, people who see Ballerina will already know what happens to John, Sharon, and Winston in the end. Depending on how important each character is to the plot, this could make the movie's stakes a lot lower, especially since there's probably only so much it can do with these characters. Ballerina's choice of timeline could weaken its own story, and it's also not clear how Ana de Armas's character fits into all of this. At the moment, no one thinks Rooney will be in John Wick Chapter 4. If that's true, Ballerina's absence could make the John Wick franchise and its big story feel less important, especially if the spin-off doesn't find a way to explain why she's not there. When John Wick Chapter 4 comes out, it could be that a lot of time has passed between the third and fourth movies. This could be because the franchise added another project between the third and fourth movies. The cliffhanger ending of the third movie made it seem like the next one would happen right away, but that may not be the case. After all, John's return in Ballerina shows that he won't start his next fight for at least a little while. In John Wick Chapter 4, he might be able to stay alive for weeks or months before he tries to make a deal with the High Table. Going in this direction could be a good idea because it would give them more freedom and space between movies. So far, there hasn't been a single break in the action. A 3-movie story about John Wick's life only covers a few weeks. Next, John Wick will face the consequences of his actions in Chapter 4. Chad Stahelski, the director of John Wick Chapter 4, says that the character played by Keanu Reeves will have to deal with the results of his actions in the next movie. After the success of the third film in 2019, both critically and financially, Reeves's eponymous assassin will be back in 2020 for the 4th installment, where he will face his biggest challenges yet. Characters like Ian McShane's Winston and Lawrence Fishburne's Bowery King return in John Wick Chapter 4, but there are also a lot of new ones, like Donnie Yen's Kane, Bill Skarsgård's Marquis, Hiroyuki Sanada's Shimazu, and Rina Sawayama's Akira, among others. In the first trailer for John Wick Chapter 4, we got a taste of some of the action that Keanu Reeves' assassins will be getting into. Now, in an interview with Total Film, director Chad Stahelski tells us more about the movie's plot via Games Radar. The movie's director says that as Wick deals with the consequences of his past actions, he will come to some important realizations. In John Wick 4, I think John realizes how his actions affect the people he cares about. There are always going to be results for the things you do, and this shows that John is starting to get an idea of what will happen. It doesn't stop him in any way, though. How John Wick 3 sets up Chapter 4. In the most recent movie in Stahelski's action series, John Wick is on the run after being told he is excommunicado. This means that hundreds of assassins are looking for him all over the world. In the ending of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, Winston, who has been Wick's constant ally throughout the series, betrays him after he beats everything that the high table throws at him. Wick gets hit by a bullet and falls off a building. He lands in an alleyway below. At first, it looks like Reeves's character is dead, but in the last few minutes of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, he is brought to the Bowery King, hurt but ready to get his revenge. In John Wick Chapter 4, Wick is going to war, so it looks like he will have to fight assassins from his past. Kane, who is played by Donnie Yen, seems to be one of these. The new character seems to work for the Marquis, who is an important member of the High Table. In the new trailer for John Wick Chapter 4, Kane and Wick are shown fighting. However, a number of other new characters could also turn on him, possibly because of things that happened to him when he was an assassin. There are still a lot of questions about what will happen to Wick in John Wick Chapter 4, but it seems likely that it will have something to do with the new characters, as Wick has a history with several of them. After being allies for 3 movies, it will be interesting to see Wick and Winston on opposite sides of a conflict, especially since McShane's character has a lot of power as the manager of the New York Continental Hotel. With the movie coming out in just over 3 months, more information about John Wick Chapter 4 is likely to come out soon. This could include a new trailer. Well, John Wick 4's surprising story sets up a 5th movie. The surprising plot of John Wick Chapter 4 sets the stage for a possible 5th movie in the series. Even though it's possible that John's story will end in his next movie, it hasn't been ruled out that there will be a John Wick 5. There is at least a chance that Keanu Reeves's character will be used in another movie. The John Wick 4 trailer gave a hint as to how the franchise can keep his story going, as the ending of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, hinted John's next challenge will be to stay alive during the fight with the High Table, but his goal isn't quite as big as some people thought. Since the 3rd movie put him at odds with the High Table, it made sense that John Wick Chapter 4 would be about him destroying the group. The movie will instead be about how John tries to make the High Table happy. That means that a story about John fighting them will have to wait until John Wick 5. The High Table's survival is good for John Wick 5. In the new movie, John Wick's plan is to get the High Table to leave him alone by beating Bill Skarsgård's Marquis de Gramont in a one-on-one fight. In other words, John doesn't want to destroy the High Table just yet, so unless something unexpected happens and John does end up killing them all, it seems like the High Table will still be together when the movie is over. The group is an important part of John Wick's history, which is another reason why the fact that it still exists is a good sign for a possible 5th movie. If the High Table fell in John Wick 4, it would be hard to come up with a story for John Wick 5 with higher stakes. Since the High Table has so much power, it would be the ultimate enemy for the main character to defeat. As long as they are still alive, the studio will have a good reason to keep John's story going on the big screen. And based on how things have been going and what we've seen in the trailer, John Wick 5 might be the one where Keanu Reeves's character finally faces off against the High Table. The trailer for John Wick Chapter 4 shows a scene that would lead to a fight with the High Table in John Wick 5. John is supposed to beat the Marquis in a fight to the death, but if he breaks their rules or loses the fight, he will definitely lose any chance he has left of making peace with the High Table. If that happened, John's only option would be to get rid of the whole group for good. John going after each member one by one is a story that could easily fill a whole movie with action. Given everything Wick has been through in the series so far, it doesn't feel like a good ending for the series for him to die. Chapter 3 was the darkest one so far, with John looking like he was ready to sell his soul just to stay alive a little longer. If John Wick 3 had ended with his planned death, fans of the series would have been disappointed. With Chapter 4, it looks like the people who make the movies are getting ready for an epic ending that will at least give Wick a chance to get away. The franchise has to be one of the best to ever exist, but everything comes to an end. Hopefully, there will be a John Wick 5. Well, that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Till next time, cheers!